Hear me
Sam,
okay?
I can. Sam, thanks for joining me on the podcast. Good to talk to another beer leaguer who just likes to watch other beer leaguers and enjoy the game.
Yes, thank you for having me. Huge fan of
Yeah,
yours.
I appreciate that. And for those that can't, if they can't already tell by the accent, you are a masshole. You're from the Boston area.
Yeah,
Uh,
20 minutes north of Boston.
okay, where about?
So I'm from Melrose, Massachusetts.
Okay, my corporate offices are in Concord, and I'm actually heading to Boston next month.
Oh, no kidding. All right. Yeah,
Yep.
okay. So a little ways away.
Yeah, I'm heading in. It's a fly in Wednesday, fly home Friday type of deal, and I'm
Oh,
sitting there going, the Bruins are playing on Thursday, but that's the day I'm supposed to go to dinner with my coworkers. Do I tell them, you know what? Sorry guys, can't do it. Got to go to the Bruins, Canadians game.
yeah,
Uh,
definitely.
I know at least one of my coworkers would probably say, "Well, can we get 2 tickets?" Or yeah,
Expensive tickets.
but if you're only getting them once in a great while, it's not that bad.
Yeah, go for it.
But then again, I am heading to Raleigh next weekend for the outdoor the what are they calling that one? The Stadium Series game.
Nice.
Yeah. My dad lives out that way, and he was able to get 3 tickets. So me and my son were
Oh,
flying out
wow.
on Friday and
That's awesome.
hooking up with dad, and we're going to go watch some outdoor hockey, see the Stanley Cup together because they're going to have that there. So
Nice.
that's going to be fun.
That's the Stadium Series.
Yep. Yeah, it's
Okay.
it's going to be played at the football stadium for North Carolina State, which is apparently like right across the parking lot from the PNC Center where the Hurricanes play. So it's not a long walk for those guys.
I was going to say, yeah. So is that North Carolina or South?
North Carolina.
Okay.
So it's in Raleigh. So it's on the east
I'm not
coast
up
of
on
this.
that.
Yeah, if you look at the state, it's kind of like on the east coast, about midway through. Just north of the midway point.
Okay. All right.
So, yeah,
What's up?
yeah. Hey, Dad's going to be driving, so I know.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. Well, he lives in Wilmington. Well, technically, it's in Carolina Beach. It's one of the coastal islands, but he's about 2 hours south of Raleigh. So we're getting a hotel in Raleigh for the night because we don't want to drive home after the game.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah.
Yeah. Either way, he's
Tired.
still driving. So let's talk about you a little bit.
Yeah, what do you want to know?
You're from the Boston area. Boston, very much like Chicago, where I grew up. Has a not a niche hockey scene, but a very committed hockey scene. So how did you get associated with that as a young hockey player? How did you get excited about the game? Because when we were kids, the Bruins were kind of like the Hawks. They were good. They were always in the playoffs, but they weren't great.
Yeah. So let's back up a little bit. I'm 20 minutes about north of Boston. So I'm a suburb of Boston. So technically, I wouldn't say Boston, but you're close enough that you go to the nice areas. You see the cliffs. You can see Boston, the skyline, everything. So, I mean, I guess it all started back in '89. I mean, I'm 37 now. So yeah, about '89. That's where, waking up as a little kid, I want to watch TV, and my mother had on the Bruins, and I saw Cam Neely, and I was like, I want to be Cam Neely. Cam Neely's awesome. He's big, he's bad, he's tough, and then put me in to learn to skate, all that, learn to play hockey. So, it's a stereotype of putting the fat kid in net, right? right. The fat kid has to go in net. He's crying. I don't want to play. My skates are too tight. Now, I'm not a good skater. It took me about 3 years to learn to skate. So I'm just like, okay, whatever. So the coach goes, who wants to be the goalie this week? I raised my hand. It just snowballed from there.
Yep. Yeah.
That's I don't know what else to say. I idolized the Bruins, but I was like, I want to win, so I can play goalie better than him. This guy's a lot bigger than me, but I'm this short little kid. It's like, I can stop pucks too.
I wasn't necessarily the fat kid that they put in the net. I was the exact opposite. When I played football, I wore number 1, and my dad joked and said, if I was moving, they thought I was number 11 because they could see the front and back of my jersey at the same time.
That's a good one.
But, skating wasn't my strongest suit when I first started. And
Right.
I was like, like a lot of kids were like, well, goalies don't do that much skating. Little did we know. But I was a catcher in baseball and I loved the equipment. So I was like, yeah, I raised my hand. I volunteered myself. And I had told the story on the podcast before. I was at the Murray Bannerman Learn to Skate. That's where I learned to play, skate. And then tryouts the first year. One of the guys my dad worked at the firehouse with, Mr. Carbonell, he asked, hey, does anybody want to try goalie? And I was like, yep, me. And, my dad jokes and said he's never forgiven him for that one. And he just brought over the gloves and a stick for me to try out and tryouts, and here I am, sprawling around making saves. It's like, I was hooked right then and there. It's like, this is where I belong.
Yeah. Same here.
Yeah.
So for me, it was, I loved Moog back in the day.
Yeah.
So my big three was Cam Neely, Ray Bork, Andy Moog. But then, growing up, you watch them play the Canadians, and you're like, I hate the Canadians, but it's like, I have to idolize Patrick Waugh, the king. And I'm like, I want to be Patrick Waugh. But you can't say that because you're, a Bruins fan. So deep down, no, I nothing but respect for Waugh. And he's probably the reason why I became a goalie.
The trade to Colorado probably was very freeing for you.
See, that didn't bother me as much as Ray Bork going over
there. Yeah. That's a good question. Obviously it's kind of like Patrick Kane right now and how he probably going to lead the Hawks in the next week or two. But it allowed him to win that Stanley Cup and bring it back to Boston. So, I mean, it had to have been I don't want to see him go, but God, I'm glad he gets to live out that dream.
All right. So I remember the 0.17 seconds. I don't want to relive. I had nightmares just thinking about it.
Yeah.
That 2013. So I actually get in a fight with this guy at work. He's the big Bruins fan. And I'm like, he's like, oh, if Rask was better, it would beat the Hawks. I'm like, you're not beating that Blackhawks team. That team was stacked. End of story.
They were, if they didn't win that game, they were coming back to Chicago and they were winning that game at the United Center. I knew that in my heart of hearts. And I was actually looking forward to that because they would have played Game 7 on my son's birthday. It was like perfect night to win it. But he was, so that was 17. He was 5 years old and he was watching the game with me and he fell asleep on my lap. And the Hawks score that goal to tie it. And I woke him up, and so then my wife comes in to get him to start taking him to his room. And like 17 seconds later, they score again. Like I'm going crazy. And she's like, what? I'm like, Gus, get back in here. They're going to win. And he's, just waking up from his stupor. Like,
and the rest is history.
What's going on? He's like, they're going to play on my birthday. I was like, no, they're going to win it tonight. It's just the craziest. If I take my Blackhawks fandom out of it, still the craziest 17 seconds of hockey I've ever watched.
Facts. Yep. I agree 100%.
The close second is the other night I was watching the Wild game and they had 3 fights in 15 seconds.
Yeah. I've seen that with Dallas and Boston. So it's like, the thing about 2013 was I was living in Salem, Massachusetts, Witch City, Halloween town. My brother was on leave from the military, Iraqi war vet, all this stuff, right? My little brother. And we're watching it together. My wife's trying to sleep. She's in nursing school. So it just unfolded in front of me. And I was just like, what just happened? And we both looked at each other like, are you serious? My brother got up, stormed out, and was like, I'm leaving, bye. And I'm like, all right, see ya. Yeah. It was a tough. It wasn't as tough as 2019, but you know what? At least with 2013, it's Chicago. It's original 6, Patrick Kane. You know what? Give it to them. They were the better team.
And honestly, as a Hawks fan, in that series, I'm looking at going, I want the Hawks to win for obvious reasons, but I like both teams,
Yeah.
of the original 6 teams, for Chicago, I have to say, like, Boston's one of those teams we have mutual kinship, especially because we went so long without winning.
Right.
And I've always liked the Rangers because of uh, Mike Richter in that '94
Right.
final. I mean,
'94. Great
yeah,
memories as a youth hockey player. Jeez.
'94. You've got the Stanley Cup run and then the World Cup of hockey. I mean, that is the greatest 2 months a goalie's ever played. I mean,
That was
he went on a bender like none other.
that was the only time I could stay up late
Yeah.
growing
Thank
up.
thank God the World Cup of hockey was in the summertime because those were some late nights.
Oh, I remember. Oh, so much
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah. So, you're playing goalie
Yep.
because like me, you thought, hey, there's not much skating involved, and we learned quickly that that was not the case. Now we're the best skaters on the ice. Um, you know,
Sure.
how far did the competitive side of hockey go for you? I know high school hockey and Massachusetts is big. It's not Minnesota big. It's probably on par with Illinois, where it's still a big deal. State tournaments a big deal. You're packing people into some pretty good sized venues.
So, I mean, I'll tell you right now off the bat, like with my youth hockey career, it was the best time of my life. It was all right. So I guess I should start from the beginning. And I always said in my podcast before, like my parents waited to put me into school, so I technically didn't stay back, but they waited to put me in school, and I was born in January. But the cutoff of hockey was before that or
Mm-hmm.
after that. I'm sorry. So I don't know where the cutoff was, but I was always put with the older guys. I never was put with kids my age
Yeah.
or my grade. So I was able to play with like kids that were like growing hair out their chin. So I was like, okay, cool, this is great. But it is what it is. But as far as and my youth career was awesome. I have no regrets. High school though, I don't like talk too much about it. And unfortunately, it was it was. I mean, I don't know what to say. I'm trying to be, Disney over here. It's a lot of the OxyContin was coming out, and
Yeah.
that was unfortunate.
Yeah. Well,
But
and you know what though, it's good for those young goalies that listen to the podcast too. I mean, because yeah, Oxy was kind of the big thing when we were kids. Because I'm 42, we're kind of in that same vintage, we can say.
yeah,
So
yeah,
it
all
was
right.
it was those prescription drugs were kind of the big thing for kids our age, and it's no different than kids today. There's all kinds of there's always going to be the fad of the time that
Yeah,
is
that's a good way to look at it.
luring.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's a fad of the time that's luring them away from being the best version of themselves they can be. Yeah, it's fun in the moment, but they don't see the how do I put this? They don't see
Long-term effect.
the long term
Literally.
effect and the hole they got to dig themselves out of to get back on track. Because it's so easy to keep going down that hole, but it's so hard to climb up that ladder to get out of it.
It was really sad because growing up it was like drugs are bad, everything's bad. It's like, okay, I get that.
Yeah, I
Alcohol,
mean,
tobacco, everything was bad.
we had it on our Christian goalie sticks. Say no to drugs.
Exactly. Yeah, Ronald Reagan, right?
Yeah.
The throwback. So the whole thing was, it was like it's prescription drugs.
Right.
So it was like, oh, it must be safe if the doctor's telling me it's okay. But no,
Yep.
it was probably the worst thing because I mean, personally, I'll just say it for the record, I never tried the stuff. I was always kind of a wimp. I was like,
Yep.
I can't do that stuff. But I mean, you have the all-star hockey player, varsity, the all-star baseball player, overdosing. You get
Yep.
this kid who played left wing who was an amazing hockey player overdose, and you're just like, what is going on? But I mean, Oxy hit this area of Massachusetts very hard, and I mean, even today the opiate crisis is awful, and to this day, I could say like, well, it didn't affect me because I'm not in rehab. I never tried the stuff, but it's that lingering effect of like, well, I don't want to talk about high school because I remember people just dealing in the locker room.
Yeah,
It's like
you may not have done it, but it's kind of like secondhand smoke for us '80s kids too.
exactly that
We
great
didn't
comparison.
smoke,
Exactly.
but we still suffered through it. And my wife and I, we watched that great movie with oh god, he was the original Batman.
So that was
Dope
Dope
Sick.
Sick.
Yeah,
Hulu.
such
Yeah,
a
Michael Keaton. That was a great
Michael Keaton,
series.
great, but it captured the essence of the problem, and
Exactly.
it highlights, especially in Philadelphia and kind of that, the
That
upper
was taking place in the coal
Appalachian.
mines of Western Virginia. So
Yeah,
basically, my small town north of Boston, Melrose, Massachusetts, same thing.
yeah.
That show captured everything that my town went through back then,
It
and
was
that's unfortunate.
well, and it's crazy too because my wife worked in healthcare for a number of years, and that little card with on a scale of 1 to 10, what's your pain? Yeah, we never had that as kids, and still today, you walk
Right?
into an ER and they pull the card out like, where are you at? And
1 to 10. I
yeah,
know.
it's a card that it's looking at it objectively, it's like it makes a lot of sense for the practitioners, but knowing the history behind how it came out, it's like, oh, don't even bring that out to me now.
I know. It's kind. You know what? To sum it up, it's gross. It's just
Yeah.
the whole thing too was like where I come from. And I'll back up a little bit. Like I'm very privileged to play hockey. I'm not a Disney
Mhm.
kid, but I was
Right.
very privileged I was one of four brothers. I'm very, very lucky and privileged to play hockey. But at the same time, like you're working, you're not working. I'm sorry to say this, but you're playing against kids and like they have mommy and daddy and they got BMWs and Mercedes, but they're going into the
Yeah.
medicine cabinet, stealing the oxys. And it's like, whoa, what's going on here? It's really sad. It's just gross. It's disgusting. But I'm just grateful that I never fell down that route. And I apologize in advance, but it's really sad what happened. I lost a lot of friends.
No, I hear you. It's a terrible um situation. I was the same way. I blue collar household. Dad was a fireman, worked his
Right.
side
I was an
jobs.
EMT for 10 years.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
Could never get in the fire department. I didn't have a dad that was in the fire department. He was an engineer.
Yeah, well, my dad was on Chicago, and Chicago only gave 2 tests when I was in the age range, and timing didn't work for me. But I took St. Paul's test, but not to get political, but I was a white guy that
I
didn't live
know.
in the
Yeah, I
city
know.
that didn't have military, so I lost 15 points
So I'm
before I
glad it
signed my
doesn't just
name.
happen here local. Okay, it's good to know. Good to know.
Yeah,
It makes me feel better, just a little.
um, yeah. How I never became a fireman, I don't know how that happened because I went to the firehouse every chance I got with my dad. In fact, the team I play on, we're called the Hosers because it's predominantly firemen from our area. And
That's awesome.
I live in the northeast suburbs of Minneapolis, St. Paul. And I've probably been to more fires than some of the guys that I skate with who are actively firemen. And, so they'll be in the locker room telling stories. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I got one for you. And they're like, holy crap. Like it's like, oh, yeah, we had this fire in the projects. And, the one night the crack whore fell in love with me. And that was the same night they were shooting at us. And they're like, what world did you grow up in? Is different than what you guys are used to, but yeah, I was privileged that mom and dad worked hard and they saw that I had this passion for this game of hockey. So they did what they could to provide me the opportunity. Now, I didn't play travel hockey. I was good enough to play travel hockey, but we had the conversation, whereas we didn't have not necessarily the resources, because dad would have found a way to make it happen financially, but it was travel hockey means going on the road. And dad's at the firehouse every third day.
Yeah.
Mom's also working, and I don't drive yet. So how is that going to work
You
out?
want to eat, right?
Yeah. And so I wound up playing, luckily in Illinois, we had house league hockey. They don't have that in Minnesota, which I think is just ridiculous. So I played house league hockey until it came to high school, and it was good enough. I made the high school team and wound up playing in college too. But it was just, like you said, I was very fortunate. And I can't say it wasn't the Disney household because mom and dad actually really loved Disney to the point.
Really?
Yeah, they became vacation club members, and they've gone to Disney a lot since we've grown up. We went twice. Once we were visiting my dad's cousin in California, I was like 3, so I don't really remember. There's a picture. That's the only reason I know we went. And then when I was in the first grade, we went again. And the only reason we went is firemen, policemen, they can't go on strike. So in the city, they would go 3, 4, 5 years without a contract. So when they would sign a new contract, they would get their back pay from when the last contract expired. So we went on 2 big trips as a family growing up. One was to Disney in the first grade because dad got his back pay. The second was it was during the 95 Olympics in Atlanta. The Atlanta
96.
Olympics. 96 was during the 96 Olympics. We went to England. And the only reason that worked out was because my grandmother was a war bride. She grew up in England. So we had quite a bit of family over there. So it was really just pay for the flight and we stayed with family type of deal. And we stayed in the countryside. Yeah, we stayed in the countryside. We only spent like a day and a half in London, which was actually really cool. But it was, that was fun to go over there. And while we were there, may have made my uncle drive us an hour and a half to Peterborough so I could go ice skating. He's like, what do you mean? Where's the nearest ice rink? And it's like, well, I want to go check it out and see if they have open skate. And so they did. So we went. I wore some crappy rental skates, and as a goalie, it was even worse because I'm used to goalie skates. And
skates.
Yeah, my sister, I mean, she could skate, but she wasn't great at it. But she even got a pair of rental skates, and we did a few laps at the Peterborough Arena, and it was fun. I had my Eddie Belfour jersey on, and it was a good time.
Nice.
Yeah. Awesome. So your playing days, you get to high school, and that was an experience. Was that the end of the competitive career? And like most guys, it was kind of like after high school, there was a bit of a break.
So I'm one of 4 brothers. And, 3 of us played. So my older brother was named after Derek Sanderson, oddly enough. Right? So he never played. He's out in Idaho. My older brother was decent, but he became a soccer player. My little brother just kind of played because he was following our footsteps. But not to pump my own tires here, but I was the hockey player.
Right.
So long story short, I was the goalie, of course. Okay. So pretty much, I had a fight with the coach during youth, and I played on select teams. Hockey wasn't as big as it is now. And especially 2001. I remember being a freshman. You got the World Trade Center.
Yeah.
And you had the Bruins sucked, by the way. They were terrible. And then you had some guy named Tom Brady step on a gridiron. So nobody liked hockey. It was all about football.
Yeah. Well, that
never played football in my life.
I'm growing up in Chicago during the Jordan era. I'm like, I don't care about basketball. Can I please get a Blackhawks home game on TV?
Right. It's exactly what's going on. I mean, it was 20 years of that.
Yeah.
But, I appreciated it. I never once I honestly never played any other sport. I mean, I play soccer in the summer.
Yep.
And that was only to keep me active, and I hated it. I was just put on the sideline. But, later on in life, I'd go into like hockey camps and all this stuff. And, it just snowballed. It was like you were obsessed with hockey.
Mm-hmm.
And this was before the internet. This was before, like, you basically had to like try and learn to read through the newspaper. Like, okay, I see this nice picture of Byron Defoe. It's like, what's going on with him?
Yeah.
The Bruins sucked. So, I mean, so fast forward a little bit to high school, it was nobody cared about hockey. Nobody cared about the Bobby Orr days anymore. So it just fell by the wayside, and it was like, okay, whatever. Now, by 2009, 2010, when the Bruins had the first Winter Classic at Fenway, and then the Bruins were, hyped up. It's this is awesome. I love the Bruins.
Yeah.
Patrice Bergeron, Tim Thomas, Chara, and then it was 2011 happened, won the Stanley Cup, and it was just. And right now they're on fire. So we'll see what happens in the playoffs. So
it's good for Boston hockey fans, and like I'm a Cub fan too, so I've always felt this kinship with Boston fans because of the Red Sox. It's like we suffered through some of the same stuff of the long suffering fan, and it's one of those where I think the suffering makes it much more enjoyable when the team is good. And even like right now, the Cubs, they're not very good right now. The Blackhawks, not very good right now, but it's like, we have the good memory. And we know we could go 108 years till we have it again, but we still have that memory to hold on to. And it's like, okay, I don't care. We've had our time. That's fine. But just go out there and compete and know we got your back.
I mean, I think all it takes is, Chicago became a dynasty.
Yeah.
Is it? Incredible. Brian Bickle, Corey Crawford. Tavares. Taves. I get them confused. It's just unbelievable. Like how many. What the thing is too. So my father worked as an engineer, and he would do business trips. So he went out to Chicago one summer. He took my mother. He didn't take us. He took my mother. Yeah. No, I never went on an airplane until I was 25.
Okay. Now,
Puerto Rico. That was my first trip. Was Puerto Rico.
Have you been to Chicago though?
No.
Okay, you got to get there because the food. You got to have the pizza and not just the deep. Everybody thinks Chicago pizza is deep dish. Deep dish is amazing. I love it, but it's special occasion pizza. You got to use a knife and fork to eat this pizza. Chicago pizza to the locals is thin crust pub style pizza. That's what we eat day in, day out.
That's
and
awesome.
It's going to be good if it comes in the paper bag. It was funny because my wife,
the butcher bag. Yeah.
Yeah. My wife was, saw the
brown bag.
Yeah. It's got like that little drawing of Italy on the top and some.
Okay. I know you're talking about. Yeah.
But my wife was watching, she was scrolling through Instagram and the latest Barstool Pizza one bite thing came up.
I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah. And he's in Wisconsin and she sees him walk out and she goes, "Oh, it's in a paper bag. It's going to be good." And of course it was good too. And in fact, when he was in Chicago, he went to my pizza place I grew up going to, Vito and Nick's. Place is over 100 years old. It's always in like the top 5 of pizza joints in the country. And he's got this preference for New York style pizza, which is a different style pizza.
Good. Yeah, he's actually a local guy. He's from Swampscott.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so he went to Vito and Nick's, and it's one of these places, cash only. They don't deliver. Okay. If you want their pizza, you're walking in and getting it, or you're sitting down and they have draft beer. You can buy it by the pitcher, and it's old style or PBR. Those are your 2 options. They got carpeting halfway up the walls, Christmas lights over the bar. It hasn't changed the only thing that has changed in this joint since I was a kid is when I was a kid, the waitresses were all over 50 and had a cigarette hanging out of their mouth. They're all dead now.
I was going to say, times have changed.
Yeah, so now they have some younger waitresses that are probably in their 40s or 50s still, but they're not smoking. But they do because they got a deeper voice than me when they come and take your order.
What do you want? What kind of pizza do you want?
Yeah, but when I try and explain this joint to people, they're like, okay, it's like, think of the movie Goodfellas, and if they were to go to a pizza place, this is where they would go. And they're like, okay, I get it now. It hasn't changed my whole life. I send everybody I know there. It's near Midway Airport, 85th and Pulaski, I think it is. And it's a good place.
It sounds it.
Yeah. So I digress. We're trying to talk about hockey and goaltending. And so after high school, did you go straight into the beer leagues? What was that journey like for you?
it was. I stopped playing.
Why?
I just stopped playing. You meet girls. You got girlfriends. You don't got time for the ring. You just you work. So I went to Northeastern for about a year, and my father got laid off. So he was an engineer. He got laid off. His job got outsourced to India. So he's like, "Yeah, get a job." I was like, "Okay." My older brother got to go to friggin' UMass Amherst, where I believe one of his friends knew Jonathan Quick, because that's where
Okay.
Quick went. Yeah, he's from
Yeah.
Connecticut originally, but he went to UMass Amherst. Okay. Long story short, I was just like, okay, whatever. I'll get a job, work it, whatever. But I was always like, oh, I like EMS. I like emergency medical service. So I got into that. I was just I couldn't get hired until I was 21. I was an EMT, and then I was like, I'm not going anywhere in life. So I was just like, okay, whatever. But to back up a little bit, my older brother, who I haven't not on speaking terms with, unfortunately, he was like, we need guys to play beer league, pickup, and I'm like, I don't want to play. So he's like, come on, I'll buy you gear, and I'm like, nah, don't buy my gear. I'll buy my own gear, and I bought player gear. So I went to Pure Hockey, and I'm pretty sure I paid maybe $200. Got all the stuff, half off. So I'm out there playing. I wasn't a good player. I didn't like it. And I'm just looking at these goalies, and I'm just like, you guys suck. I'm so much better than you. So, it wasn't a regular pickup. It was just with him and his buddies. And, it was like, oh, we got ice this week. But then 3 weeks later, we don't got ice. Oh, we got ice tonight. You want to come? Okay, fine. So, unfortunately, and, I've seen your podcast about your mother, and I'm so sorry about your mother, but I've been there too. And, my father unfortunately passed away, and my father was my biggest fan. Yeah, my father passed away from cancer. He was in the hospice bed. The last thing I said to him was, and I laugh about it because in a way I think he would laugh about it too. I said, "I'm sorry for quitting hockey, Dad." So I remember giving him a hug, and then he took him to home and passed away. So 2011 was like the best time of my life. The Bruins won the Stanley Cup. Everything's awesome. Come November, my freaking dad dies from cancer. 38 days after being diagnosed. So I was like, okay, whatever. So I had this woman I was working with. She was from my hometown, and I graduated. Her sister graduated a year before me, and she was like, this. She was a nurse actually. I was working at a nursing home, and she was like, "You need to get your mind off things. You need to get a hobby." So I was like, you know what? I want to play goalie again. Yeah. So it was about 10 years removed, and I maxed out my credit card, $500 at Goalie Monkey. I'll get all the stuff on clearance, sheet. And I started playing goalie, and the rest is history, really. I mean, that was 2000. That was January 2012.
You know what though? It's funny how therapeutic the game is for us, though. Because during the lockdown, I wound up going over into Wisconsin and playing. We were calling it bootleg hockey because their rinks didn't close down. And after not skating for, I think it was like 6-7 months, that first skate, it fueled the soul, in some weird way. And then
I know the same feeling.
After Mom passed, that first skate I was able to get out on the ice for, it felt good because she was one of my biggest fans. I still have this. I have some socks I got her when she was going through chemo.
I saw that on Instagram. That was awesome.
They're great socks from.
They're pink, right?
Yeah, but they look like hockey socks with a skate at the bottom. In fact, on the sole of the sock, there's actually like a little line that's supposed to be the blade. They're great. I'm one of these crazy sock guys. In fact, I got some hot dog ones on right now. One of the reasons I do that is because it's the only way I can match them up when they come out of the dryer. So why not have fun with it? But
why not?
These socks, I saw them at the Let's Play Hockey Expo. They're called, they're from Toe Drag Apparel. And Dan, the guy that runs the company, he played at one of my rival high schools. So we're always going back and forth. He still hasn't made a pair of Brother Rice socks, but he sent me a pair of Mount Carmel socks, which I'm like, shit brown is your color. No, I'm not going to wear those. Although that is the school that Chris Chelios went to, as did Donovan McNabb.
Oh, no kidding. Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a school that they've
We
produced
got
quite a few.
Eagles.
They've produced quite a few athletes, but I don't think they've ever produced a scholar. I'll just leave it at that.
Well, I mean, McNabb made it to the Super Bowl. He just didn't win.
Yeah, I mean, Chris Chelios, he's kind of he was an okay.
Yeah, he's still a Canadian to me. What else?
He'll always be a Blackhawk captain to me.
Yeah. Sure.
I still remember the day he was traded. I come home from school and my mom's like, the Hawks traded Chelios. So I was like, what? Just tell me it wasn't the Detroit.
Yeah, I was just Red Wings, right?
And she didn't even have to look at me. I could just tell by her reaction it was Detroit. So then I turn on the radio, Q101, which was like the alternative station at the time. They were even sad about the trade, and they're like, we're going to play this one for Chelios, and I forget the band, but it was the song Praise You Like I Should. Just kind of like, yeah, you're gone to Detroit, but God, you were good while you were here. And we appreciate that. But I mean, that's how my mom was. She was that hockey fan. She was that hockey mom that, was yelling in the stands. I would say she kind of had those love goggles where she thought I could have gone further than my capabilities would take me. But, back to the socks, I got them for her because they're a good compression sock. And, going through chemo, they were good for her. And it was just one of those things she could, because she had to go through chemo during COVID. So it's not like anybody could sit there with her. So she's sitting in this chair by herself for 8 hours a day, getting pumped full of poison, but she was able to look down at the socks and, it was in some way, we were there with her.
Right.
So when she passed, of course, Dan wound up sending 2 pairs of them. So it was actually pretty amazing what he did. I went on his website because I wanted to buy myself some of the Blackhawk socks. I think they have Bruins, but I wanted some Hawk socks. I want some Wild ones because it was right around, Black Friday. And so I was ordering some and I was on his website. It's like, now I've seen on your Instagram account, you've got these pink ones. And I said, my mom's going through chemo right now. I'd love to send her a pair. And he just goes, what's her address? And so I gave the address and he sent her 2 pairs, didn't charge me anything, sent her a really nice handwritten note. So
That's
when
awesome.
she passed, of course, I took her socks and all they're what I wear every time I step on the ice. I always, because there's 2 pairs, I know there's always one clean. I always wear them when I go to the game. In fact,
the backup.
Yeah, I've already packed for our trip to Raleigh, and those will be the socks I'm wearing to the game.
Oh, that's awesome to hear.
Yeah, but I mean, back to your point, I mean, it's our parents are our biggest fans, and when we lose them, the game, even though they don't come to our beer league games, it just
it sucks.
Yeah,
it's an awful feeling. I mean, I know, like, when you grow up, it's like, oh, you're gonna lose your mom, you're gonna lose your father, but it's like when it actually happens, man, come on. And especially working at EMS, you see so many sad stories, and you're like, my God, that's happening to me now. But it's all good because I know, like, deep down, like, my father was just so proud of me, and I mean, I became an absolute goalie snob. I mean, I want to be Disney, so I won't say other words, but I became obsessed with hockey. When I bought my first house back in 2019, my wife and I walked through this room, and it's where I am now, and they call it a Florida room. My wife's like, "Oh, I'm gonna put a couch out here," and I'm like, "This is where my hockey stuff's going." Like, bye. You can have the whole house. I'm having this, and she's like, "All right, you can have it." So,
well, when we've looked at buying different cars, I'm like, that's not gonna work. And I was like, why? It's like
that's
my
a totally different
bag,
animal with my wife.
My goalie bag's not gonna fit in the back. It's like that has to work. And she's like, but that thing's huge. She's like, all we can really have are SUVs. And I was like, that's fine. My bag's got to fit in there, and it is what it is. But I totally get it. It's funny because there's so many goalies I talk to that after kind of that high school age, they leave the game for a while, but there's always something that brings them back. And I think when we come back to the game, we appreciate it more for what it is. And,
Exactly.
we always want to win. Don't get us wrong. Winning's fun. But if we don't win, we still find a way to have fun and appreciate the fact that we were able to go out there and play the game of hockey. Uh, my team, our philosophy is as long as nobody gets hurt and there's beer, it's a win. We don't care what the scoreboard says.
That's what I live by.
Yeah,
I got work in the morning. Just remember that.
Well, and it's so funny whenever, there's words being exchanged or, pushing back and forth in our league, the ref, and there's always guys off to the side going, hey, we all got to, because our games aren't Sunday night there. And somebody's always saying, hey, we got to work tomorrow. Cut it out.
Monday morning.
Yeah. Nobody needs to show up to work with a black eye.
Missing teeth.
Yeah, but it's funny. Well, the team I'm on is mostly firemen. We do have one cop, and he's a cop who's trained to deal with interesting situations, and usually the way to handle that is to subdue people. And so sometimes we gotta be like, Nate, calm down. There's been certain games where I've had to tell him, it's like, Nate, you cannot play angry tonight, Nate. No, you cannot do it.
It's 2023. Watch the news. Chill.
Yeah. Well, two games ago, it was so funny. Like something happened. I was looking this way, and he's coming in with another player. Stuff goes down. The whistle blows. And they're having words. So Nate just pushes this guy, and he goes down, and the guy's saying something. So Nate puts his glove down like that, and the guy flinches, thinks he's going to hit him, and he just puts his hand out to pull him up. Well, I think the ref didn't like this other guy from other games because he wound up giving the other guy the penalty for interference. And we're all like, how is Nate not going to the box? He just threw the guy down like well after the whistle. And he's like,
oh, yeah. And the ref goes, you remember me? So you don't give me that ticket.
Yeah, right. Well, there was another game probably 2-3 months ago. This one guy just going, jawing after the game and everything else. And Nate,
I know those guys. Look, listen, I call myself the beer league hero. I'm nothing. I'm not a beer league hero.
Yeah,
that's just a persona on fucking YouTube. I play with plenty of beer league heroes.
Yeah.
But anyways, continue.
So this guy's going to Nate. You could just see it in him. He's like, it's not worth the 1 game suspension to take him out right now. And finally, the guy leaves the ice, and the ref looks at Nate. He goes, you could have hit him, and I wouldn't have done anything. He deserved everything that was coming his way. And so now Nate looks at the ref. He's like, you could have said something sooner. And he's like, I'm sorry. I should have told you. But
Unreal.
Yeah.
Unreal.
No, he's one of those good guys. It's good to have on your team. You want him on your team, not the other way around.
All who you know.
Yeah. So you've got a podcast. What I like about it is they're not long episodes like mine. They're a little bit shorter.
All right. So let's back up for a second. Like, you interview like professional goalies. Like, I feel honored being part of this. So thank you.
I talk to goalies of all ages and skill levels. I've had bantam goalies.
Ed Belfour, Ron Tugnut. You're still better than me.
Kelly Rudy. Kelly was actually.
I can't even. The list just goes on and on. Scott Darlin, all them. I'm like, okay,
yeah.
wow.
Scott was fun to talk to, especially as a Hawks fan.
Right.
But every goalie I've talked to has been awesome. I mean, and let's not forget some of the female goalies, like Sammy Jo Small from the women's Canadian team, gold medal winner. I mean, she was awesome. She's now the GM of the Toronto team, I think, in the women's pro league. And I'm still trying to get Maddie Rooney on. She literally lives like 2 miles from me. And coaches works a goalie school with one of my college teammates. Is like, how have I not been able to get her on yet?
I was playing over at the Bruins practice rink. This is back in like 2016. Just, it's called it's a league called Stinky Socks. It's glorified pickup, but the Boston Pride played practice before us, so they would come off, and I I had this chick slap my pads one time, and she's like, "Hey, have a good skate, goalie," and it was Blake Bolden. And I
Oh,
was like,
cool.
"Oh, hey, what's up?" And I didn't know who she was until later. I found out she's a scout for the LA Kings. I mean, she's doing real good work, especially her background. So props to Blake.
Yeah, and I I was just having this conversation with my wife today, and how representation matters, and the fact that the NHL has been bringing those girls out for the All-Star festivities, and
Oh yeah, with Sarah
letting
Nurse
these.
and all them. Yeah,
I mean, it's so awesome to see, but I think what it really shows. I mean, we saw it with Kendall Coyne Schofield with her fastest skater. When she was the fastest skater that particular year, if I
oh
remember
yeah.
right. And
Much as I hate the All-Star game, I remember that.
but it was like it shows what skill they really do have. And I remember it was 98. I was skating down at Johnny's Ice House, and one of the women's Olympic players was at rat hockey with us. And just the way she could stick handle was unreal. The difference was her shot. If she was beyond the hash marks, it wasn't much of a challenge for me at that time. Well, now the U.S. women's team skates at the super rink where I play, and I've seen a practice or two of theirs. It's come a long way in those 15, 20 years. The hockey those girls are playing now is
like, oh, there's
so
some
much
fire
better.
behind that shot. Jeez.
Yeah. Oh, they're just, and it is a different game without the hitting. But I think because of that, it's a different skill. It's kind of like watching the WNBA, where to me that's more old school basketball because they're still actually playing. It's not just a dunk or 3-pointer every time. Whereas, God, the women's hockey, especially the goalies, they're so quick and they're small. None of them would be drafted by Toronto being under 6 foot, but
right,
they're just, their positioning is so good because of their size, and they come out on average. They come out of the net a lot further than the NHL goalies do on average. It's fun to watch the difference and
very
see
impressive.
Yeah, I've got ESPN Plus, and I love that I can watch some of those. What is it? PHF now is what they're calling it. But
Is that is that on Hulu?
ESPN Plus. It's, I don't know. We got the Hulu, ESPN Plus, Disney Plus package.
I didn't pay for that. I'm cheap.
Yeah. Well, honestly, the ESPN Plus is worth it because you get pretty much every NHL game, and you can choose, do you want the home team or the visiting team's broadcast? You get so many college games, Division I, men's and women's, and you get that. It used to be what, the PW, PHL, whatever, but now it's the PHF is what they call it. You get those games too, and it's kind of fun to switch over to some of those D1 women or the PHF games and watch them too. My only gripe is it feels like it's a live barn feed. You don't get the different camera angles, so it's a little bit harder to watch, but they're still fun games to see.
Yeah. Which live barn is so expensive. I almost bought it. I'm like, whoa, they want that much? I'm like, yeah, no, see ya.
Yeah, unless you got a kid, friends of ours, their son was playing, I think it was like tier 3 junior hockey or something, but he was down in Florida because he was in college. And yeah, they had some kind of service like that so they could see his games because they weren't going to be traveling every weekend to go see his stuff. That's where it makes sense. Well, let's get to your podcast. It's the beer.
It's not much of a podcast.
No, I like it though. It's the What the Puck.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
It's a different format, and I think what's great about so many of the different hockey podcasts is there's so many stories to be told and so many voices. And yours is they're shorter episodes, which are nice. They're great for if you're walking the dog or driving to the rink. But it's just kind of how you're feeling about the game. It's not all about goaltending. It can be about, different things. What I also like is you've talked about, some of the beer league goalies, some of us that do record our games, why is that cool? And for most of us, we're just doing it because, well, we got nothing better to do and we want to see ourselves get better.
Yeah. I mean, I like to see how I look in my awesome gear that I pay, $100 for.
Yeah.
You gotta have some
Well,
record of it.
and I've said it before with mine. It started. My son had a Cub Scout project he had to do of making a video, and I had the GoPro, and we're like, well, he's like, let's put it up behind your net and do something. It's like, all right. And it's like, well, this is kind of cool. And it was like right around the same time I started watching the Puck Stops Here YouTube channel with
Yep.
Sam, who I've had on the
Yep.
podcast.
Another Sam. Yeah, I know. I've seen that one. Yeah.
Yeah, and what I like is Sam, has a little bit of a coaching background, so he does the voiceover of this is what I did wrong on this play, and kind of does a little bit of coaching on his stuff too. I'm like, huh. So I can not just make my highlight video, but I can actually learn something. And I've been able to pick up some stuff about my game that way. And that's why I do. It's one of those things where it's like I do it for me. And if somebody else finds it interesting, well, that's cool.
Yeah, definitely. Watch yourself. Be like, where did I make mistakes? Can I do better?
Yeah.
I mean, for me with the podcast, I kind of did that out of like boredom, and also too, my little brother was Iraqi war vet, all that stuff, and one of his army buddies was just like, let's do a podcast about military. So his buddy bought him all this podcast stuff, like at least like $300 of stuff. And my brother's like, I'm never gonna do a podcast. He's like, yeah, you have it. I'm like, okay. So during COVID, I was like, all right, I'll just mess around.
Yeah.
So I mean, my big thing too is I like to keep my career like in a time capsule. Like I want to talk about it because when I'm 82 years old, hopefully, knock on wood, I don't, when I have dementia from taking pucks from the head, I want to remember this stuff. Hopefully YouTube and all this stuff is still around. So like, okay, I can, people can look back and go, okay, this was his beer league career. And, I'm just a beer league goalie, but at least I was able to record it and capture it in some way. And that's what I'm doing. And I keep it short because honestly, like there's so many podcasts. Everybody and their mother has a podcast.
Yep.
And I don't want to listen to 2 hours about the NHL and what Pasternak is going to sign or not. I mean, it's great and all. I will listen to it, but a lot of it is I want to capture what I'm all about, my hockey career, and then I just want to share it. Maybe somebody, somewhere, wherever, picks it up and goes, "Oh, okay, yeah, I've been there, I've done that." So that's what I'm all about. So,
well, and that was kind of the idea. The idea behind this one is, we all love the locker room. I mean, if we're being honest, when we did step away from the game, what did we miss most? It wasn't necessarily the games; it was the locker room and what would go on at practice. That's what we miss. And so the podcast was able to kind of do that with other goalies, but also my first job out of college was a sports writer for a small weekly paper.
No kidding, really?
So now when I say I was a sports writer, I also wrote the obituaries. I also did the birth announcements. And I had to cover some of the one of the local town councils as well. So it was a staff of 3. So I wrote the stories, shot the pictures, and laid out the pages too. But my official title was sports editor. But I was kind of good at it. The only reason I didn't stick with it is 1, the newspaper industry is dying, and 2, to make money in it, we were going to have to move around, across the country. And that was not conducive to our lifestyle at that time. So I went the marketing route because as a writer, I could go that route. And, it's worked well for me. I now am an analyst, which is cool. But I missed the storytelling part of it. And it was like, well, the podcast kind of gives me that.
Definitely.
And I mean, you seem to like it. And, by judging by my weekly downloads, other people are seeming to like it too.
I think you're underappreciated. I think you should have more of a following, a bigger subscriber list on YouTube. I'm surprised that it's not more of a like, wow, like, like this guy is huge. Like, I'm grateful to be on this right now. And, thank you. I appreciate it so much. I'm not trying to like get subscribers or get people to follow me. It's just, I want to talk to somebody.
Yeah, we want to talk hockey.
Goalie. That's all it is.
Well, I was somewhat humbled this week on Facebook in the GGSU group. Somebody was like, "What are some good goalie podcasts to listen to? I'm tired of chicklets." And of course, In Goal came up right away. I mean, if you're a goalie and you're not listening to the In Goal podcast, are you really a goalie? Those guys do a great job. I've had Kevin on, I've had Hutch on, still trying to get Darren on. Heck, I've even had Cam from the hockey shop on and still can't get Darren on. But then, somebody, I don't even know who, they're like, well, of course you got to listen to Mike McKenna's 6 Degrees that he did for a while. And they're like, and then Tendy Talk is a really good one too. It's like, oh, well, thank you. And then, then one of the guys I recently had on, Darren, he's like, yeah, I would second Tendy Talk on that one. Darren was the guy I play against him every now and then. He wears a Mike Leut fiberglass mask still to play. And he's an interesting one. My teammates, whenever I can't make a game, they're like, are you going to get that guy to sub for you again? Because he'll shotgun a beer between periods. He'll have one.
My type of goalie. Jeez.
Yeah, I mean, he's a treasure. We'll put it at that. Yeah, he's an interesting fella. Good to have in the community. But I'm humbled that people find it good. Some weeks it's hard to line up guests. Other weeks, I'm kind of in one of those interesting planning ones where I've got a couple people that are confirmed that they're going to come on. It's just fitting in their schedules. How it'll be there's one person where I'm only one other time have I had to work with somebody's people, and that was with Ed Belfour, because I went through their marketing team rather than direct to him, which worked out good, and that was a great episode. But
let me ask you one question about Ed Belfour real quick.
Yeah.
I never bought it, but you had his whiskey, right?
Oh, I got it right here. Yeah, he sent me 2 bottles. It's pretty good stuff. He's got the rye whiskey. Sent me a signed bottle.
That's the one I saw at the liquor store.
And then this is the bourbon whiskey finished with Texas pecan wood. I really like this one. And yeah, I'm not much of a whiskey person, but this one,
it's too strong. But still, I saw it was Eddie Belfour, and I was like, I gotta buy. It was $64 up at the liquor store in New Hampshire.
Yeah, well,
and I was like so tempted to buy it. My wife's like, don't even think about it.
It's such a cool bottle. I mean, he even talked about it a little bit on the episode. The bottle.
I remember. Yeah, that's why I was like, I gotta look for it.
There was thought into the bottle too, because it's not a cheap whiskey, so the bottle should look cool. But like I said, not a whiskey person. I've become a little bit of one since Mom's passing, because she did like her whiskey. In the place her and Dad go to, they have a thing where I think you got to earn 100 points and then you get your name on a plaque. Between Mom and Dad, they have 13 plaques on that pillar now from whiskey tastings.
They like their whiskey, huh? Jeez.
But so we leave the hospital on Mother's Day. We had to go to this. It's a joint on Carolina Beach called Hoplite. It's kind. I don't want to call it the towny bar, but that's kind of what it is, because Carolina Beach is a tourist
local watering hole.
Yeah, but I mean, it really is a place where they know our names. Like me and my sister, we go there maybe once or twice a year, and we walk in, and they're like, "Hey," they know who we are. And Dad, it's a 2-block walk for Dad, and he walks there because their parking lot's tiny. He's like, "I'm not going to take up their parking spot if I can walk." But we stopped there first to let them know, it happened. And even before we got there, they had 3 shot glasses lined up and poured. One for me, one for Dad, one for my sister. And then they had one for Mom there all day too. But awesome. So I'm like, me and my sister are like, we don't drink whiskey. And we're like, we have to on this one.
Today you do.
Right. And so we had that one. And, we were giving our hugs and this and that. And, before we left, Dad's like, let's have another round. And me and my sister are like, Jesus Christ. So we have our second shot of the day. And then we go back to, and as we're leaving, Corey and Catherine, they're the owners of the place. They are fantastic people. Corey, he wouldn't come over to the house that day because he doesn't do well with that stuff, but he's the cook. So he's like, I'm not going to send food today. because plenty of people are going to be bringing you food the next 3-4 days. He goes, but come Wednesday, I'm going to make sure you guys have food. And my one niece is a vegan. My other niece has celiac disease, so she can't have any gluten. And then the rest of us just like everything else. So he would send over 3 different meals every single day, and it was amazing. And
Wow.
honestly, like I ate the vegan and the gluten-free stuff, and that was good too. It's like
Yeah, try
they took
everything.
care of
Why
us,
not?
but they sent us home that day with some bottle of I don't know what it's like their nicest bottle of Jameson. They're like, here you go. This is for mom. We're like, okay. So we get to the house. People are filtering in and out and in and out. And dad's like, come on, kids, we're having another shot. And we're like, Christ. And so at some, I'm like, at some point it started tasting good to me. That's the problem. I'm like, okay. I wasn't doing the old like after each one. It's just like, okay, yeah, that one tasted
yeah,
good.
I'm good. I'm good. That's too funny.
Yeah, like I tasted the oak notes on that one. But at some point, there's just too many people at that house. So I'm like, I'm gonna go. It was like a 3-block walk to the beach. I'm like, I'm just gonna go walk to the beach to be by myself. I was like, I could take the golf cart, but I'm a little worried that if I were to get pulled over in the golf cart,
DUI. Yeah, you don't want that.
yeah, I'm like, I'll take the walk. It's good for me, But as soon as I got back, it was like, hey, and I was like, Jesus Christ.
4 shots.
Every time but after that, I mean, we would go there for lunch and dinner, and as soon as we walk in, they're like, oh, okay. They never charged us for the shots, but it was like, I'm like, oh, okay. Finally at one point, it's like, Dad, you have my shot. I don't know. I don't need this, but I'm worried that when we go in for the Stadium Series game, we're going back to the beach on Sunday. We're gonna probably go to Hoplite for dinner, and we're gonna walk in there and be like, here you go. I'm like, oh, Jesus, I can't say no.
Can't. No, it's disrespectful to say no. You have to partake. Yeah, okay. Sure.
Yeah. Which is the only reason I still have this much of it left. In fact,
Jeez.
The last time I poured some of this, it was my brother-in-law's wedding. So I poured a glass for me and my father-in-law when we got home that night. Because my father-in-law is a whiskey drinker. He's very specific. He likes his a certain one. I forget which one it is, but he's a bit of a whiskey connoisseur, but he's like, that one's good. He's like, if you don't have what I drink around, I'll drink that one. I was like, okay, good. Because yeah. One of the things I wanted to talk about though is on your podcast, you had mentioned you do like watching the other beer leaguers who share their videos, but then there's some where it's just kind of like, what's going on here? And one of them, you were very adamant, like Nick the goalie. Nick the goalie's got a following.
I had a feeling you're going to ask me.
Yeah, well, I listened to that, and then I watched the All-Star stuff and saw he was there with KVG, which I don't know how you feel about KVG, but he's actually a really cool guy.
Oh, Kane Vangate?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I like him. He's all right.
Yeah. No. When he was here for the Winter Classic, he and I did.
He doesn't seem like one of those guys that's like.
But Nick the goalie, you got some feelings about.
I know. What do you want me to say? I mean, listen to the podcast. I know I'm maybe out of line and inappropriate. I'm just like, when I grew up, like, it was take the game seriously.
Yeah.
You don't do push-ups with the net. Like, you would be benched the next, 5 games. I just... I don't know. I want to keep it PG right now. So, but I don't like it.
What I think of Nick the goalie is he has a childlike... what's the word I'm looking for? A childlike zest for the game. Like, he doesn't take it too seriously, which, I mean, it's beer league. That's right. Cool. So he's just like, hey, I'm going to go out there. I'm going to have fun. But he almost views the game as we did as, mites and squirts. The only difference is he's a grown-up now.
I mean, you know what? I applaud him on his, accomplishments. I'm, good for him. Get the fame, get the endorsements, get, your story on NHL, great. It just that's not hockey to me. That's more like wrestling. That's the
Yeah.
fake hockey to me, and I just like it's funny, but it's like
You know what I like
I
is
go and play a game and I'm getting my ass kicked, and I'm like, you don't see me going, oh, I'm gonna do this for views, and he's got thousands upon thousands of views, and it's just like I'm not jealous. Don't get me wrong, I'm not jealous, and I'm happy for the guy, but at the same time, I'm like, that's not hockey. That's almost staged to
yeah.
me. It's so funny that you ask about it. You're like the third person to ask me, and they're like, whoa, you got some really pent up rage. I'm like, no, it's just I grew up like, stop the puck, do whatever you can to stop the puck, play the game, play the sport, win the game, but have fun, but still win. And it was like, no. But I'm not. I might have been a little drunk on that podcast, but
No.
yeah, just a little, a little. I'll admit to
know,
that, but that's about it.
But there's one goalie that you seem to like. He's a little controversial right now. Trav. Some people.
Okay.
It's funny in the goalie community. People either love him or they hate him. And I won't say it's maybe not deserved. I've had this conversation with a few other goalies, and I think what he started out with was really good. It was pretty informative. It was, document his journey through, junior hockey in Canada. And junior hockey in Canada isn't all, the OHL, the WHL. I mean, there's many levels, and it's not glorious. And he was just kind of sharing that journey to see where he could go. And then, I think the likes started coming in, and he was able to start making money. And I think he was. I even met him at the Let's Play Hockey Expo. And I think Trav as a person is actually a good dude. He's found a way to make a living in hockey, sharing his videos. My gripe.
Did you ever interview him?
Not on the podcast.
Okay.
Back, I did a blog before the podcast. I was kind of doing a bit of a blog of like, hey, let's meet these other, social media goalies. That's actually the first interaction I had with KVG too. Then I had him on the podcast, and then we did a ODR shootout when he was in town, which was kind of fun.
Yeah.
But I think, especially when Trav went over to Sweden, he started getting a little more crude, pushing the envelope a little bit. And I think he's got a platform and a following, especially with the younger goalies. Like he's got some good stuff, but I think if I don't want to say made it a little more Disney, but thought about the young goalies out there and what he's saying. I think he could actually help them more if he thought about it and not just
like more or less like a coach or role model. Yeah,
be a little.
Because
I mean, he's actually experienced a lot. He's gone. He's played in the some.
He's traveling the world playing hockey.
Yeah,
I mean, the thing about him was I didn't know who he was until Goalie Gear Sluts United was saying nasty things about him.
Yeah,
the GoFundMe. He wants pads. He wants gear. He's this. He's that. And I'm like, who is this guy? I gotta check him out. So I mean, he's got talent. He's got size. He's definitely blessed with goalie talent, and he's got my respect. Personally, I think his videos are more clickbait, more advertisement. But I mean, listen, if you're making money off it, who cares? Right. Everybody's gonna watch it. So I mean, I'm one of them. I'll watch it, but I'm like, am I like 100% buying his sweatshirt or anything? No, I know guys who have, but at the same time, I don't hate what he's doing because he's trying to be that professional goalie. Unfortunately, I don't think it's gonna happen. But the journey is pretty good.
Yeah, he's a smart kid, and his videos are beautifully done. He's got some cinematography skills
with the drones and everything. Beautiful, I know.
The drones and even some of his. He's got some really good cinematography skills. Like you said, the clickbait. I mean, he's got a future as a social media consultant, at least.
Definitely.
And I think if he would embrace that, almost, I've talked to Jordy from the Ultimate Fan Cave. I've had him on the podcast, but I've talked to him when he's in town for the Let's Play Hockey Expo. And if he could almost channel a little bit of Jordy, and like Jordy, that's all he does now. And he started out just doing the social media for the fan cave because he was neighbors with Ken. And now Jordy just does full-time social media consulting. I mean, he's always traveling with the on the bench guys.
All of them, yeah.
That's a great comparison for I think Trav. He could harness that following of his, still be his goofy self, but do it in a way that I think is beneficial for the kids, and not so much where I'm like, you got kids listening to this and that's what you're talking about. Like you said, I don't not like the guy. I listen to some of his stuff every now and then. I've watched his videos, see where they're going. Like he's a smart guy, but he's not seeing his full potential, I would say, that's in front of him, because he's got a great following.
So that's where I kind of draw the line, for me at least. It's like, I work 9 to 5. I'm a barely goalie at night.
Yeah.
When I have time, I'm a barely goalie. So where do you draw the line where YouTube star or barely goalie? I don't see both. It's either you're the YouTube goalie, the Kane Van Gate, the Trav, the voiceover goalie, the Nick the goalie. You're a voiceover goalie. I mean, excuse me. You're a YouTube goalie.
Yeah.
Where's the barely goalies? One of my favorite goalies to watch, and I know you talked to him, is Cooper goalie.
Yeah, Charles is awesome.
He's awesome. He's got balls. I can't believe he goes out there one that year. So, I mean, find me more guys like that. I'll be the biggest fan.
Hey, that's the equipment I started playing this game in. Honestly, I mean,
now hide.
Yeah. I mean, setting those pads on a radiator so that they would hopefully dry out by the next day.
Right.
But I mean, up until last year when I got my new set, my stuff was 20 years old. It wasn't, I mean, it looked newer than Charles's stuff, but it wasn't that much newer than some of the stuff he wears.
He's got like 20 setups. It's like,
yeah,
one. He could be any team. It's unbelievable.
It's just because he loved the game and really never got the chance as a kid to play it.
And that's what I love about it. It's he embraces the beer league. Like, I love my gear.
Yeah.
I drink the beer. I chill with the guys. I'm a beer league goalie. He's not just some, buy my T-shirt, buy my jersey, buy my stickers. It's like, okay,
yeah,
it gets a little too much sometimes, but no.
Yeah, and I got sucked into, I've got the merchandise deal on my website, but it's
which is all good. I mean, hey, anything to make a buck, I'm fine with.
I wish I could, but I think I'm the only one that, me and my sister are the only one that bought sweatshirts.
Christmas gifts are probably easy.
The only reason I did it is because I think I do it through Printify or something like that, Shopify, something like that, where it's like, it's not like some of these other groups where you got to go out there and you got to print up so many, and now you got them sitting in your garage. It's like, it's print on demand. So it's not top quality stuff, although I've been very happy with this sweatshirt. Not
it looks good,
but yeah, I mean, it's been through the wash a ton of times. It's super comfortable. I will say that about the sweatshirt. But it's just like, I saw everybody else and it's like, well, why wouldn't I? If people are buying it, but it's like, I did it in a way where,
sure, take it.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm with you. Charles, his stuff is, when it comes out, I watch it. Kane's, when it comes out, I watch it. But Kane, he does some instructional stuff because he actually is a goalie coach.
Right.
Most people don't know he actually was a Division I goalie at Bowling Green. He's a good goalie on top of it. But another
it's
one,
hard to watch a St. Louis Blues goalie though.
It
St. Louis Blues fan. So I'm like,
yeah,
2019 still burns in my mind.
He and I talked about that when he was here, and it's funny because he's actually coached with and skated with some of my college teammates. So yeah, he's, the Blues thing aside, not a bad guy.
No. I like him. I watch all his stuff.
Another one I really like, and I haven't reached out to him in a while and haven't seen any of his stuff, so I should reach out to him, is Bonesy down in Nashville. And what I love about Bonesy is he's an e-bug. Yeah, but it's because
Colorado. Nashville or Colorado?
Nashville. he dressed for Colorado when they
Right.
were in Nashville, but he's a Nashville e-bug. But he's just one of these guys, he self-taught at younger ages, worked hard, and just kind of got into the right skates with people to get the e-bug role. But I mean, he's a baggage handler for Southwest, and he plays beer league hockey. I mean, that's his story. And
Yeah,
because he
that's the 9 to
because
5
he
guy.
yeah, because he doesn't have kids, he's got a little more time to do his videos. That's his deal. And my wife and I, we've been talking of maybe moving down to Nashville. And so I was texting him quite a bit on, do you know about anything about this school district? What about this area? How far is it from the rink? And so he was actually really good when we were considering Nashville. But now we're looking at Atlanta because both kids are considering Georgia for college. So, we want to be closer to them.
You got kids in college?
My son's a freshman and my daughter's a sophomore. She's turning 16 on the 13th.
Wow.
But they're both already looking at schools. My son wants to be an aerospace engineer, so he has to kind of start looking at them sooner than later. Yeah, I'm like,
smart then. Oh,
he wants to design a new airplane wing.
Wow.
It's like, I didn't know we needed to revolutionize the wing, but hey, if you got ideas and it works, yeah.
Work for NASA.
That is one of his goals. And then my daughter.
I wish I was that smart.
Yeah, then my daughter wants to go to art school and maybe be a Disney Imagineer. So
there you go. Keep dreaming. That's all it is. It's like that's wow.
Well,
congratulations.
If there's one thing we can do as parents, it's like, don't tell our kids no when it comes to their dreams in that regard, but nurture them.
Definitely.
I knew a lot of kids growing up that were artistic, and their mom and dad were like, no, you can't make money off of that. It's like, you can, but you got to be smart about it, which is why she wants to go to the school in Georgia. It's the Savannah College of Art and Design. What I really like about it, having done what's really cool because of COVID, a lot of schools do virtual visits now. So you don't have to go, to some of these schools and be like, well, that was a waste of our time. We can do a 1 hour Zoom call first and be like, we're not going there, which is, well, I said the Chicago Art Institute growing up, like that was the creme de la creme of art schools. We sat in on their virtual tour and we're like, not a chance in hell. Like,
really?
Yeah, you've got the Art Institute of Chicago there, one of the greatest art museums in the world.
I was going to say, wasn't that the one that was in Ferris Bueller's Day Off?
Yeah. I've been to the museum, a couple times myself. I've walked past it tons of times in Chicago, but it was like the way they presented the school where it's like, well, we really don't have any majors. You just kind of like do what you want and this and that. And then she didn't like the idea that it was an urban campus. Like, you really don't have a campus. Like, you have the institute here, there's 2 other buildings, and then the dorms, which are basically high-rise buildings. She's like, that's really not her. It's like, yeah, I get that. And being from Chicago, I'm like, I really don't like the downtown scene right now either. It's not the downtown of my youth. Well,
it's Chicago.
But then there's this Savannah College of Art and Design where their focus is actually on, these are careers you can do with the design background. And so it's like, okay, you want to do animation? That's not just cartoons. These are all the things that animation comes in on. You want to do, interior design? It's not just watching Joanna Gaines on HGTV. There's so much more to it. It's like these are the careers you can do that have design. And so it's like, okay, I really like what they're presenting there that way. And like their campus, we did the virtual tour and she saw the dorms. So it was like almost every dorm has like a hotel style pool. And like they have artificial turf and all this other stuff. I looked at my daughter.
It's Atlanta.
I looked at my daughter. It's like, that is not the dorm life experience your mom and I had at St. Mary's. Like, no, it's very different. Just know that. And she's like, okay, I still get to draw, right? I was like, yes, you do.
That's all that
matters. So I'm trying to find my notes here. I can't find them. We've been talking a while. I know you
I
listen
know,
to
I
the
know.
show.
Sorry, I'm
So
talking my head off.
no, I mean, that's what I love about the podcast. It's like people are like, well, how long does it take? It's like I schedule 60 minutes. Sometimes it goes longer. I mean, when I had Kelly Rudy on, like after an hour, it's like, are you still okay? He's like, yeah, let's just keep talking. This is going good. You know, we each had beers open, and you know, I think he maybe cracked open one or two more as we talked. You know, and then other times like I've got 45 minutes, that's all, and then I gotta go. It's like, all right. You
Was
know,
he wearing the bandana though?
no, but I did ask him about that. And because I wore the bandana and I loved it. And I asked him, I was like, what is the story behind that? And you know, he had the long flowing hair.
The Jerry
and,
curl, right? AC Slater.
and he said what it was actually those old blue undershirts the hockey players used to wear. He said he tore off one of the sleeves. And that's what it was. It was one of those
No
old
kidding.
undershirts. Yeah. That's what that blue bandana was one of those sleeves. And it's like, yeah, I remember as a young hockey player wanting one of those blue undershirts. Because that
Camp Daly had one. All the blood on it. I was like,
every NHL player, you saw a picture of them in the locker room, they had that blue undershirt on. In fact, when I was in college and Brian Trottier Jr. was my teammate, he had them. He comes walking in the locker room the one day wearing one of these blue undershirts, and like
he was the man in the locker room.
We're like, where did you get that? He's like, he's like, you guys know who my dad is, right? And we're like, yeah, but we haven't seen those in a while. He's like, well, yeah, it is kind of old. I'll give you that.
Bring it back.
Yeah, I mean, because by that time, you know, the Bauer undershirts had taken over. You know, the mock turtleneck Bauer undershirts that were the thing for the while. But anyway, so you know what's coming. The 10 questions. And the first one is, what's the craziest coaching moment from your playing days?
As far as like a coach?
Just like, going crazy.
So I said in my podcast on What the Puck podcast, I had this coach. His name was Mario. He was an Italian guy. And he's kind of heavy set. He looked like Mario without the mustache. And he would just flip a puck right in my face. Maybe like, it had to be like 12 pucks just in my face. And he would laugh in my face. And it wasn't punishment or anything. He was just doing it because he was a coach. Yeah. I mean, nowadays that probably wouldn't float. But I mean, probably after like the 7th or 8th, practice that he did that to me, I just flipped out and I was like, I hate you. Stop doing that. Left me alone. He stopped coaching the next year. That's the wild. I'll never forget that because it was right to the head, right to the cage. I'm like, what do you like? You couldn't even stop it because you're like, it's going right to your face, and he would just flick it every time. So,
yeah, I remember I had a coach who was my senior year of college. This guy only lasted a year. He was a Canadian chiropractor. That should tell you everything.
I was gonna say, yeah, enough said.
He insisted on being called doctor too, and I was like,
"Oh, come on!"
Yeah, but my timing with my hands was off, and the ice was ready a little early one day, and so he comes into the locker room. He goes, "Come on, just the two of us." I was like, "Okay." So I get in the net, and he goes, "Put your helmet on the net," and I just kind of look at him, and go, "Huh?" He goes, "Put your helmet on the net." It's like, "Okay," and he goes, I know we don't really see eye to eye, but you need to trust me here. I was like, okay. So he just starts shooting at my gloves. And I go, what are you doing? He goes, your gloves are going to be more active if you think it's going to hit you in the face. I was like, okay. I said, so we're out there. And now my whole team is like on the glass behind us. And they're like, what the hell is going on? Yeah. What is the coach doing here? And so here I am stopping the pucks, and everything in my glove went into my glove, everything to the blocker, nothing hit me in the face. And then it was time for the team to come out. She's like, all right, come on. I
still got your teeth.
Put my helmet on. And it was funny because in the locker room after practice, they're like, what the hell was that? And I was like, working on my hands, apparently. And one of my teammates
no kidding.
One of my teammates is like, what would you have done like if you played in time when goalies didn't wear masks? It was like, I'm not stupid. I would have been a forward.
Yeah, I want to play goalie. Enough said.
Yeah. Although when we were kids, the Milek goalie mask, that you saw Garth Algor wearing in Wayne's World. That's what we wore, and it was kind of like playing without a mask. So what's your favorite all-time goalie mask?
Oh, that's easy. Andy Moog's Angry Bear.
Moog's Bear. That is a great one. I loved when he came to the North Stars. He kept it too, but just changed the colors.
Well, it was the Dallas Stars by then. They traded John Casey.
Yeah. His
I remember.
Minnesotan. Yeah.
I actually have that mask painted. Maybe I can. Oh, that's not it. I got that mask painted by the guy that paints Tuukka Rask mask. I was like, listen, I love Moog. So
yeah, I
actually have that mask.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Right here.
I got to meet Moog at the Let's Play Hockey Expo. He was at the Vaughn booth.
Moog signed it for me. I don't know if you can see
sweet.
It. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I can't really see it, but a little bit.
Yeah, it's there though. That was right before the pandemic, so yeah, that's my favorite mask of all time. I was like, I got to get that in my collection. So yeah.
Yeah, I was at the Vaughn booth, and my son was trying on Goldberg's equipment from the D1 movie. They had it there. Yeah, they had pads and gloves, and Moog and Mike Vaughn were just sitting there chatting it up, and so the three of us wind up talking. So that was pretty cool.
That's awesome.
So what's your favorite?
Moog's the nicest guy in the world.
Oh yeah, I mean, just sitting there, and 99% of the people walking by didn't even know who he was because he was just sitting there,
Paris.
Well, it's right because he was at the booth because he did an autograph signing before, but he just stuck around because he was having a good time, and because he wasn't wearing anything Stars related or Bruins related.
He's a little guy too.
Yeah, like you look at it, well, and a little in height, but maybe not width these days.
Yeah. Well, we don't judge.
Yeah, but he's just unassuming. You wouldn't expect him. It's just the way he was sitting there. It's just kind of like, But so, what's your favorite rink that you've played at?
Probably Warrior Ice Arena, where the Bruins practice. Brighton, Massachusetts, on the Mass Pike.
Yeah, I've seen the pictures of it. It looks like an awesome rink to skate at, and it reminds me an awful lot of the Wilds practice.
TD Garden. Okay, so it's supposed to mimic the TD Garden, but like half of it. Yeah. So the seats look like they're from the TD Garden, except the seats now in TD Garden are black.
Okay.
Before they were yellow. So yeah. But yeah, no, great rink. It's it's for the Bruins practice. It's good for them. It must be good for me.
Yeah.
No name, barely goalie. So
a little earlier this week, I actually skated at the Wilds practice rink for the first time. It's kind of the same setup where it's got that wall of glass, except it's on the 6th floor of a building, which is kind of cool. Yeah, it's kind of weird having to circle your way up a parking ramp to go play hockey. The Wild have their locker room on the 5th floor, so when they practice there, they have to take an elevator up to the rink, which is kind of there's been some amusing.
I think I've seen video, with the skate guards and stuff.
Yeah. But it's a pretty cool rink. Obviously, great ice there, which is always fun. I was pampered in college with great ice. We had an Olympic sheet for one, but our ice was routinely voted as the best ice in Western college hockey by the officials. And now in the beer leagues, it's skating at the super rink where some of the there's 8 sheets of ice, which is awesome, but if you get a nice time on rink 7 or 8, you're like, this is going to be shitty ice, which is interesting because if you are on rink 5 or 6, you're like, this is the best ice in the rink, in the whole place, and it's right next to 6 and 7. But those are the 2 good rinks because rink 6 is the U.S. Women's Olympic team. That's their home ice. And then rink 5 is Bethel University's home ice. So it's like those ones are good. Then on the front 4, it's always a crapshoot.
Busy rink.
Yeah. It's a crazy rink, and how big it is. I think I forget how many locker rooms there are because a couple high schools skate out of there, so they have their own locker rooms, and Bethel or men's and women's team. It's just crazy, and I forget sometimes that it is the biggest rink in the world. And I think they have 2, 4, 8 Zambonis.
Jeez.
It's crazy. Yeah, and then there's another 2 sheets of ice like 3 miles down the road at a different rink. We're pampered here in Minnesota with all the
I was gonna
ice.
say, well, hockey country. Yeah,
Yeah,
seems about
and
right.
yeah. So what is your favorite stick that you've used? This is good because somebody in the chat said, let's talk your guys. So yeah, what's your favorite stick that you've used?
Like, do you want to talk about now, or do you want to talk when I was in the youth?
I'd say all time.
Oh boy, I think of all my sticks. I mean, I think my warrior Tukara stick. So I
Okay.
bought that off of Goalie Gear Sluts United, and basically it was a Warrior Swagger stick, and it was made for Tukarask, but it was too short for him. So it was a
Okay.
factory error. So it was basically surplus, and I bought it off a guy. I got 2 of them. I think I paid maybe $100 for both of them. So I'll take it, sure. And it's very light. I love it. Definitely has that Bruins look to it, but minus that, it's probably the nicest stick. And I'm not really big
Yeah.
on Warrior gear. I don't have any Warrior pads or nothing, but
Yeah.
the stick
I
is just
like their
absolute fire.
goalie sticks. I had
Light, very light.
yeah, I had a quick foam core Warrior Swagger. Used it for like 3, 4 seasons. Absolutely loved it. The only reason I got a new one was after I got my new pads, I saw a Keith Kincaid Pro Return Vaughn on Pro Stock Hockey, and it had a white base with black lettering and a red outline, and it just matched my equipment
I was
so
gonna
good. It's
say,
like,
yeah,
how do I
beautiful. I
not?
like when a goalie matches.
Yeah, I mean, stick. And then I've been wanting a trigger grip on my goalie stick. Wanted to try one, and I saw they had a Colin Delia Pro Return that had a trigger grip. Only problem was I'd been using 27-inch paddles, and this is like 24-inch. So I'm like, whew, that's a little bit shorter.
I was gonna
But
say, yeah,
listening
shorten
to
up a little bit.
Ingold, they're talking about the benefits of shorter paddles. So I'm like, I'll give it a try. I think it was only like $70. I'm like, not breaking the bank here, guys. No, I'll do it. And it's another Warrior foam core, so the stick is awesome. I love
Yep.
the foam core, and I'm kind of digging the shorter paddle. Now, the one difference is I've been using the Turco grip to play the puck with my taller paddles. This shorter paddle is too short to do the Turco grip, so I've gone back old school, like we were taught back in the
Yeah,
day, and I've never been good at playing the puck, so it's not like it really matters.
never thought to play the puck.
Yeah, well, I wasn't. I was fortunate enough to go to a goalie camp, um, but we focused on stopping the puck, not playing the puck.
Exactly.
Because yeah, Hextall was around at the time, but the idea of goalies being playmakers really wasn't an idea.
I was
It's
always told, "Are you a professional yet?" No, then don't play the puck.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, when I had Olaf Kolzig on for the 100th episode, he was talking about how when he scored his goal, in the minors, and the big club called up and they're like, "Hey, we didn't draft you to score goals. We drafted you to stop pucks. So stop doing that." And it's like,
Yeah,
whoa,
he was about right.
yeah. I mean, that's the message we get.
Becomes a liability
Yeah, exactly. So
on some levels.
what's your favorite youth hockey memory?
Oh, jeez.
These are the hard questions.
We were invited. So I played for just a very suburban town. White dominated. All that area. Family oriented. All that stuff. I would say when we won county, we were in the Middlesex County. We won that tournament, and then we went into play Suffolk, which is pretty much Boston, East Boston, all that area, and we got smoked. So I would say winning um, Middlesex County was the best memory for me.
Nice.
Little trophy with like the Massachusetts, the arm, Cape Cod. It was just a little
Yeah.
trophy. I don't even think I get to hold it, but like I was just, we still won it. I don't even
Yeah.
have. I don't think I even have any pictures of it, but I was just like, okay, we won. But then we moved on into the bigger tournament. But yeah, that was
Yeah.
definitely the best for me.
So my high school career, our team wasn't very good. JV freshman sophomore year combined, we went 138-1 in league play.
138.
Yeah, we won
Wow.
one game. We went 0-20 freshman year. We went 118-1 sophomore year in Catholic league play because I went to in Chicago. They actually have the Catholic schools have their own league, the Chicago Catholic Hockey League. It's the oldest continuously running league in the U.S. In fact, my high school's in the Kennedy Cup playoffs. It's funny when the league formed. John Kennedy had just been shot, so they named the championship trophy after him. So here we are all these years later playing for the Kennedy Cup every year. And what's great about the Kennedy Cup is it's a traveling trophy. You know, you get it for 1 year and then you have to give it back. If you want it back, you got to win it again.
Win it, yeah.
But my freshman year, you know, while we did terrible in league play, we did pretty good against the public schools. So there was that, but we were playing in a Christmas tournament my freshman year, and somehow we made it to the championship game. And I don't remember the score, but I know we won by 1 goal, and I was in net, and I wound up getting the MVP trophy of that one.
Oh, no kidding.
I don't know why, because my goalie
You're the goalie,
partner.
of course you know why.
No, honestly, it was a 4-game tournament, and my goalie partner played 2 of them. So he kind of got us to the championship game. I just wound up playing the clinching game, and I think it was really because I made 1 save late in the game. I'm on my side, and I just had my glove open, and I didn't know where the puck was, and I felt my glove go back. So I just quickly tensed up and closed it and kept it out of the net. And it was like, I think
awesome.
That save right there earned it. But we wound up bringing home the trophy, and so took it to school on Monday, and it wound up in the trophy case, and our school didn't have very many hockey trophies at that point. So it was kind of fun to walk through the school and be like, that right there.
Yeah, I did that.
That's ours.
Awesome. That's
and
a great story.
After graduation, you know, I would go back every now and then, and I always walked past the trophy case and saw it in there. And I was really bummed the last time I went to the school, they had redone the trophy cases and everything else. And it's like, it's not in there anymore.
Where is it?
Where is it? Well, they're really only trying to put like the state championship trophies and the conference trophies. And it's like, but come on, that we don't have many hockey trophies.
It's like somewhere in a Goodwill.
Yeah, it's packed. Somewhere. It's packed in a box in the gym somewhere.
Oh, jeez. All your hard work for that. You packed. Oh,
hey,
I'm sorry.
I have the pictures of it. It's in the yearbook. You know, it's still in the annals of school history.
It's there.
Yeah. So what is the best chirp you've heard on the ice, off the ice, directed at you, not directed at you?
You know, not a lot of chirps. No, I would say I was kind of before the chirping. There was always like, you know, your mother, but that was about it. I mean, there really wasn't much chirping.
I think the best one that's been directed at me, it's kind of a fun story. So in youth hockey, I played hockey with this kid. At the time, we called him Jamie, but by the time we got to college, he went by Jimmy or James if he was wearing glasses. But we went to different high schools, so we were rivals in high school, but still friends. And then I moved into my dorm a few days early because my roommate was a soccer player, so I was able to get in. And so on move-in day, I have the door open, and I see this kid walking by. I'm like, that looks like Jimmy. And he comes. Then I see his dad come walking by, and his dad has a very distinctive look. He looks like Wilford Brimley, the diabetes guy.
Hurts the feet, I can't eat ice cream.
Yeah,
all Liberty Mutual. Of course I know now.
So I was like, that's Mr. Palucci. So I stick my head out. I was like, Palucci, what the hell are you doing here? He's like, moving into my room, like literally the next room over. And then come walking around the corner, there's this kid from one of our other rival high schools. I'm like, what are you doing here? He's like, well, I'm roommates with Palucci. So it's like the 3 of us Catholic League kids all went to different high schools, like in rooms next door to each other. But neither of them wound up making the college team, but I did.
Oh,
You know,
geez.
and I was the backup on the JV team.
Bill made the team.
Right, I made the team, and it felt good because the other kid that went to the other school, they were winning the Kennedy Cup every year. You know, they were going to the state finals and everything else, and you know, he would be picking on us. He's like, bring out his bag of Kennedy Cup rings with 3 rings in there. And then after tryouts, it's like, those rings are great, but where's your jersey? He's like, it's right there. It's like, no. Where's your St. Mary's jersey?
Oh, you went for the throat.
Yeah, I went for the throat, but Jimmy, on the other hand, he would pick on me. He's like, hey, you have the fastest store in the Mayak. It's like, oh, you sure, but yeah. So I kind of like that one now. It's like, yeah, fastest store in the Mayak 4 years in a row.
That's pretty funny. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's funny. Jeez.
yeah. So, what is the worst post game beer you've had?
Oh, jeez. Oh, it was some IPA. I was in a pickup and the guy was just like, "Yeah, here, thanks, goalie." Hands me a beer, and I just was like, "I'm tired. I'm sweating. I'm tired." You know, crack it open. It was nasty. I don't even know what it was. It was an IPA though. It was in a green can.
Like,
I don't even know what it's called.
I'm a craft beer guy, so like I appreciate a good IPA. I don't really love IPAs. I'm not a fan of the hops, but I appreciate them. But these craft beer guys need to understand that IPAs are not good post game beers. You need a good pilsner, a good lager, and that's what's good after a game. You know,
it just had this bitter taste to it. I was like, I was being nice about it because he's across the room from me, so I'm just like drinking. Oh yeah, this is great. I'm like, this is disgusting. I'm gonna puke when I get outside in the park.
Yeah, not cool. Yeah, I've told the story on the podcast. First game of our winter season, because my team doesn't charge me a skate. I always make sure to bring beer on the night they all got to pay the team captain.
Oh, you're a good goalie then. I don't
beer me up. And my feeling is not only should I bring beer more than one, I bring it a couple times a season, but I don't bring the cheap stuff. You know, my team, it's either Busch Light, Coors Light, or Mick Golden Light is still a big Minnesota beer. And so I go to the liquor store and I went in, they had a walk-in cooler. And I was in there apparently longer than normal people. And I come walking out and I had Coors Banquet. And they're like, tough choice for you today. I said, well, I had to find a beer that was good enough for me, but cheap enough for my team because to fit our 2 pallets. And they started laughing. But Coors Banquet was a good match for it. I saw you drinking the Big Deal Brewing. That is finally available here in Minnesota. So that's going to be the next one I bring just because.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
It's a beer made by hockey players. So I'm figuring it's probably going to be a decent post-game beer.
Yeah, I mean, you'd enjoy it. I like it.
Yeah, so that'll be the next one I bring. I'll probably try some when I'm out in North Carolina because I know they're going to have it out there at that game. So
I think it just went out. It just got out there, right? No, it got available in Florida. But yeah, it's out there too. I believe it's popping up here and there. So
yeah, so I'll give that one a try next. There was a USA Miracle on Ice beer for a long time, and what was cool about that one was the proceeds were going to put a statue of the '80 Olympic team in Lake Placid. So it wasn't just one brewery made it; it was a number of breweries across like New England and Minnesota and Wisconsin. So locally, Liftbridge Brewery and Stillwater brewed it. So I would get that for the guys, and they really liked that. That was a good one, but it was expensive. Yeah, it was. They sold it in 12 packs. So I would get that. It was almost $30 for a case. But I was okay with it because, like I said, part of the proceeds were going to a statue of the greatest team ever and good beer. You know, it's like it's showing the guys like, all right, yeah, you're not charging me, but I'm still going to bring something a little better than the cheap stuff. But if it's like my 4th time of the season bringing beer, I'm going with Coors Light at that point. One of our local breweries, they used to come out with a sampler pack called the Penalty Box. So I would go with that one, and it had a couple good beer, post game beers. There was a Pilsner, there was a Kolsch. I forget what the other two, but that was
this
always a
in
good one.
Minnesota?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
We don't
So
have that anything around here.
yeah, we like our hockey here. It's
Definitely.
it is what it is.
Hockey country.
So, yeah, it's the state of hockey. It's funny as we've talked about moving. My wife's like, "Are you okay with moving? Like with hockey?" Is like, trust me, I wouldn't say yes to these locations if they didn't have a beer league hockey scene going on. Nashville, I was all in on because Bones, like I said, he was like, "I can find you a team. We'll get you skating. No big deal." Atlanta,
Okay.
I've been able to find, like, where we're looking is like right where one of the main rinks is. So I was like, okay, we're good. So when you tape your stick, do you go heel to toe or toe to heel?
Oh, I don't know. Really? I probably the last time I taped my stick was before COVID. So I don't. I think I went heel to toe.
Okay, you're a
Yeah,
normal goalie then.
not really, but sure.
The term normal goalie is kind of an oxymoron. I'll give you
I
that.
know taking a puck to the face is normal, but
Yeah. Well, as I like to tell my teammates, I've had 6 concussions and I put up 7 fingers, see how many
I
can
can
catch
count the
on.
potato. I know.
Yeah. It's like that scene from the Mighty Ducks. How many fingers am I holding up? You wouldn't know anyway. Like there's a lot of truth to that one. So what's your favorite number to wear and why?
Okay, so funny you say that because I just posted this on Twitter. Just like you, I wear number 39.
For
And that
Hashik or
okay, so let me back up for a second. So my first, so I'm just Sam, SAM. My last name is 9 letters. So I used to talk to this girl. I never dated her or nothing, but back in the instant messenger days, she used
Yep.
to put a away message saying "I love 39." So years later, she told me, "Oh, that was your name," and I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And she's like, "Yeah, first letter's 3, your last name is 9 letters, so it's 39." I was like, "Oh, okay." I also grew up on 39 Beach Ave where I lived. So I
Okay.
was always like, oh, okay, 39, 39. But that's my bear league number. Always as a youth hockey or a selects and all that stuff, it was either 1, 30, 31, or 33. So
Yeah.
those were the goalie numbers I was stuck with. But
Yeah.
39 is my preferred number.
Yeah. 39 has been my number since college when 35 was my number. And the returning senior goalie had 35. So I wasn't getting it as I was 6th on the depth chart of 6 goalies. And so I
Right?
went to the cabinet and found the biggest jersey in there, and it happened to be 39.
Nice.
You
That's
know,
awesome.
I still remember that first game. Our field house was connected to our rink, so we would go out there as a team and do some, you know, light running and stretching as a team, and and we would wear our jerseys. So my teammates, they all come out there, they're in their shorts and their jerseys look normal on them. I come out, you can barely see my shorts. I look like a 12-year-old wearing dad's jersey. They're like, Jesus Christ, where'd you get the 12-man tent? I was like, it's the biggest one in the cabinet, fellas. That thing just ate up pucks. It was great.
No, I've seen you wear it in your videos, and I'm like, oh, geez, you don't see many goalies, especially in the beer league scene, that are wearing, the 39. Everybody wants, the 30. The Tim
Yep.
Thomas, the Swayman number 1. I've
Yeah.
seen 29 for Fleury, so
Yeah.
when I see 39, I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, all right.
35 would be my other number. I've thought about going back to it just because 35 it felt good on the back when with the tackle twill jersey, the sewn on numbers.
Right.
It felt good on the back.
You didn't like 20? You didn't like number 20, Eddie Belfour down in Dallas?
No, never wore it. I wore 30 when I first started because of Eddie.
Yeah.
And then in high school went to 35 because 30 wasn't an option.
Yeah.
And I really liked 35. So I was like, all right. But here we are, we're on 39 all these years later. And it works out because my game is, I mean, you've probably seen some of my video highlights. My game is loosely inspired by Hashik a little bit at times. A little bit of controlled chaos there. And there was a a time in college where I even wore the Hasek style helmet between concussions.
Jeez. Straight bar cage.
Yep. Yeah, because at the time, college goalies had to wear the bird cage. We couldn't wear the cat eye. It's the damnedest thing. We couldn't wear the cat eye, but we could sit on the bench without a helmet. Now they're not allowed. Now they're forced to wear a helmet on the bench, but can wear a cat eye. I'm like, if you're a backup goalie sitting on the bench and get hit in the head with a puck, you shouldn't be on the team anyway. I stopped quite a few pucks from hitting me using my glove, and I even saved my coach a time or two. There was one game, puck gets rifled at our bench, and I just do one of these, and I followed it all the way in, and I looked, and had I not stopped it, it would have gotten him right in the jewels. And he just looks at me with big eyes, and he goes, "You've got the next start."
Yeah, thanks for not ending my manhood.
Yeah, he's like, "You've got the next start." It's like, all right, that works. So the last question: what advice do you have for young goalies?
Simple. Just have fun.
Yeah, I agree.
Leave everything on the ice. I grew up playing, unfortunately, because I was a bit younger, and I was so basically I was born in January, so I was put with like older people. Well, I should say older kids.
Yeah,
those kids were also the schoolyard bullies. So I'm dealing with them at school, and then I got into the locker room with them. So that kind of cast a shadow on my youth career. But at the same time, I went out there to have fun, stop pucks, and my mother and father never once yelled at me about anything. You didn't make that save, you lost. So it's all about just having fun. And you know what? You make the pros. Congratulations, get a huge contract. If you don't, all roads lead to beer league.
Yeah.
So just have fun, play the game, just enjoy yourself. I mean, be lucky you can play hockey, because I know plenty of people that don't know how to skate on ice. And I'm very privileged, like I said before earlier, like very, very, very thankful as well at my time through hockey. So just have fun, play the game as long as you can.
Yeah.
And you have one life to live.
And Kane Van Gate's the one that's, kind of coined the all roads lead to the beer leagues. And it's true, because even the pros, they wind up there. Eddie Lack's down there in Arizona playing in the beer leagues, skating out, scoring goals.
Big taco guy.
Yeah. I've had him on the podcast. He was awesome.
Yeah, I listened to that one. That was a good one.
Yeah, one of these days I'm going to get down to Arizona and take him up on the going out for a drink. That's for sure. But, it's just, you can have fun, or if you're not having fun, what are you doing out there? And that goes for anything in life. If you're not having fun, you got to question why you're doing it. Exactly. It can be hard work. It can be grueling. You cannot enjoy it in the moment, but it should still be fun. You should still be excited to go do it.
Definitely. I mean, I'm not gonna, bench press a net. I don't think that's my idea of fun, but stopping pucks and making this awesome save, even though we're losing 10-0, that's still fun to me. And just having a positive experience, and just being lucky that you can play hockey. A lot of people that can't play hockey, like I said. So, just have fun. That's all it is.
And to your point, that's what Nick's doing. He's out there having fun. And like you said, it's not your idea of fun, but it's his, and it's working. And you know what? Every time his videos come out, it's probably the same for you. You got friends tagging you going, "This reminds me of you." And I'm going, I'm not that vocal in the net. If I'm vocal, I'm yelling at my teammates to cover the back door.
I don't even do that. I'm quiet in that. I'm just like focusing on, okay, what do I do next?
Yeah, like some of my old teammates and friends are like, "Oh, you should mic yourself up during a game." I was like, "You're not going to get much. All of the dialogue is up here. I'm not saying it out loud."
Right. I tried it once in one of my videos. It was too distracting. I'm like, I can't do this.
Yeah, I've thought about it. I was like, I don't say much. Every now and then, I do talk a little bit. I'm usually barking out if there's somebody coming down hard, or especially in the beer leagues, if there's a good
behind you.
Yeah, if there's a good back check and a good battle in the corners, I'll tell both players, "Hey, good effort, fellas." Asking if the other player, every now and then, I might joke around with the player. If somebody hits the post and they skate by, and be like, "Good angle I had there."
Always best friend, yeah.
there was one where the guy's like, I don't know how you made that save. It's like, I don't either. I didn't see it until it hit me. It's like that's what they're going to get out of me. They're not going to be getting, comedy gold.
Right.
Yeah, they got to go to the Blue Paint Comedy Tour to get the comedy from the three comedians I've had on the podcast.
I recently I made a save and these two guys are fighting. Not really fighting, but they're pushing around. And the other team, I go up to the guy, I'm like, dude, it's just barely. Relax. And he's like, yeah, you're right. He skates off.
Yeah.
It's barely. Who cares?
Yeah. It's always fun when you tell them that and they're like, yeah, you got a point there.
Yeah, like, yeah. Good point, goalie. All right.
Yeah. It's I you know what has always bugged me as a goalie? So if we make a good save, opposing players will tap us on the pads and say, hey, nice save. And that's acceptable. But when a guy just snipes us and it's just a pretty goal, and like we kind of tip our cap to him or say, hey, that was pretty sweet. Our teammates always get mad at us. It's like, how is that?
Say that.
Every once in a while, there's just a sweet play where it's like, holy crap, that was
I
pretty.
say that to myself. I don't say that to them. I'm not going to pump their tire so they can, empty out another like 3 goals on them. So I'm just like, oh yeah, that was a good goal, but it ain't going to happen again.
Yeah, I still like the one. We were playing a team. We were down like 8-1, and I had like 50 some odd saves in this game. And it was late in the game, and I just make a save on this guy, and he's like, Jesus Christ, can't you give me one? And I looked at him and I said, look at the scoreboard. You guys have plenty already. And he turns around and he goes, shit, I didn't realize we had that many. The way you're playing, I didn't realize we had that many. And he's like,
I always said everybody gets one. That's how you make friends.
Yeah, but it was, that was one of those games like, yeah, we're getting blown out, but I'm still playing well, where like the other team doesn't even realize
50 saves
that it's like an 8-1 game because you're playing that way. Those are in my younger days, those games would have bugged me because it's like I played awesome, but now I'm like, hey, I did what I could. Goalie by Garmin, he used to have the podcast where there were short clips on his way to the rink. Excuse me. And he said in the one, focus on the things you can control and don't focus on the things you can't. So like in my last game, we lost by a goal, and that goal was puck coming across. It was going straight through the crease. Nothing to worry about. My defenseman puts his skate down and it goes right in the net. It's like, I can't control that. Yeah. Like nothing I can do about it. So I could have gotten mad or do what I did. Like, well, that sucked. And wait for the next shot, and that's hearing that particular podcast from Goalie by Garmin almost made me enjoy the beer leagues more because I stopped getting worried about the things I had no control over. I could tell my defenseman until I was blue in the face to cover the guy right there, but I couldn't physically cover that guy right there myself. So don't get mad about it.
You can't. Life's too short. And also, like I said before, I got work in the morning. This is just beer league.
Exactly. So
and the story. What else is there to say? Okay, cool. Yeah. You won the game. You're ready for the NHL. No.
Yeah.
Where's the beer at?
Yeah, where's the beer? And we'll see you next week, fellas. Or in our case,
that's the best thing to hear.
We got a weird 2-week bye because Super Bowl Sunday. The league was smart enough this year to reach out to every team, like at the start of the season, be like, "Are you guys going to actually show up on Super Bowl Sunday?" Usually we do, but our guy was like, "Nah," because last year we didn't, and it was kind of a stalemate where one team was waiting to see if the other one would say no first. We did. So we got the forfeit, but like our email got to the league director like 5 minutes before the other team. So it's like both teams said they couldn't. Why couldn't it have been deemed a tie?
Yeah, a duel.
Instead, I mean, both. He read ours first is what it came down to, but our team captain, we just call him coach. He's like, no, we're not going to have enough guys on Super Bowl Sunday. So because they figure it out soon enough, they're just backloading the end of the season. But then the following weekend, when I'm going to be in North Carolina, was our regularly scheduled bye. So we got like a 2-week bye, which is kind of
it works out.
Yeah, so we got a 2-week bye. Everybody's going to get healthy, and we'll see how it goes. So,
Well, good
Sam,
luck.
it's been fun chatting. Where can folks find you
Yeah.
on social media so they can follow you and your beer league journey?
So I'm at Beer League Hero on YouTube, and you can follow me at Mass Tendy on Twitter. But thank you.
And the podcast as well is the
What the Fuck podcast.
Right now it's only on Spotify, correct?
Spotify, and it's on Anchor. I think it's available on all the platforms, honestly. I'm
Yeah.
not good at promoting myself, unfortunately. I'm kind of like underground. So
Well, it's like the beer leagues. You're doing it for fun, just like I'm doing this podcast. I'm doing it for fun. If
yeah,
I have the
it's
time,
great. I love it. I've been a fan for so long, so I'm very honored to be a part of it. So thank you so much.
no problem. It's been fun to chat. I mean, obviously we're at what 2 hours of talking.
I know,
So
geez,
it's
it
gone well.
feels like an hour. Jeez.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So
But thank you so much for sharing your experiences. I appreciate it. I love reaching out to other Beer League goalies. So thank you so much.
as fun as it is to get those pro guys, those big names on the podcast, it's the beer league goalies that we all connect with, and hopefully the younger goalies get something out of it too, because you're going to be in our skates someday too, and you're going to enjoy it way more than you think you are.
Definitely.
So, well, you have a good night, and
yeah, you too, Joe.
we'll
Thank you so
keep
much.
in touch.
Definitely.